So, you've been practicing your watercolor gradients, and now you have these colorful pieces of paper floating all around your house. You don't want to throw them away, so what do you do with them? I'd like to go over a couple ideas, then I'm going to do some painting while I chat about something important that's on my mind. Okay, so probably the most common thing you'll see over a gradient background is a silhouette of some sort. Silhouettes are a great option, especially if your gradient colors tend to be on the darker side or if they consist of multiple colors. If you're afraid of losing the details of a standard painting into the background, a dark, bold silhouette will still stand out amongst most gradients. Now, let's look at those lighter backgrounds. This is an opportunity to really have fun with the focal as long as you can create enough contrast. On the left, the deep colors of the flowers pop, while the grass on the right gets lost because of a lack of contrast. Imagine how the grass would have popped if I had used shades of yellow and orange instead. Another option is to use your gradient for a junk journal page or a card. The blue painting on the left had a messy water splotch, but I've covered it up with a book page so nobody else needs to know. And I love the simplicity of the fern with the pale yellow. Okay, now it's time to jump into today's project. Do you remember these 4 paintings from part 1? I'll link that video in the description if you haven't watched it. I'll be using these same quadrants to demonstrate silhouettes with a slight twist. So, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I had something on my mind that I wanted to discuss. While it is art related, it's not entirely about art. If you've watched some of my other videos, then you might have noticed that I almost always encourage you to turn your artwork into cards. It's something I often bring up at the end of a tutorial or a project. You might be wondering why in the world I would need so many cards. Well, here's the reason. I'd like each of you to make a mental list of people in your life that you don't see as often as you'd like. Now, add in those you don't talk to on the phone as often as you should. Include the people you know who are quite elderly or maybe in an assisted living home, or maybe those who have a chronic illness and don't leave their homes often. Do you know anyone with an injury or a debilitating condition? Now, imagine what a handmade card might mean to those people in your list. I promise they won't mind if your painting isn't perfect or if the technique you were trying for didn't go as planned. They'll likely be filled with warmth just knowing that someone was thinking about them. I have 3 people in my life that fit into these categories, including someone with Alzheimer's. She may not fully understand who the card is from, but she does know that someone cares. What I like to do every so often is make out a stack of envelopes with the addresses and stamps all ready to go ahead of time, so whenever I make a card, I can just write a quick note and send it off. I know that I didn't always make this a priority. When my grandmother passed away at 90 years old, I was always so busy. I had a 2-year-old and I had a second baby on the way, and I just felt like I never had any time. But looking back, I wish I would have made more of an effort to call her more often or drop a card in the mail, not because of a birthday or Christmas, simply just because. While I can't change the past, I can do better moving forward. Well, thanks for letting me get that off my chest. And we're just about ready to move into the final step. Okay, so we've finished our silhouettes, everything is dry, and now it's time to add the twist. So what I'm doing now is I'm using a white gel pen and I'm just putting little details over the paint. And once again, we're relying on contrast. So I'm just adding dots and dashes, nothing fancy, but I love the way the white stands out against the black. I think if I had an extra fine-tipped white pen, I might go over and maybe just try for even more details and fine lines, but I just don't think this pen would allow for that. My husband is mowing the lawn right now, so sorry if there's a low grumbling in the background of this. I'm debating whether or not to add a little bit of snow to these trees, but I think I'll just keep it really simple with a few stars. As we finish up on the mountain peaks, I'll end the video here. I hope that now you have plenty of ideas for those gradient backgrounds, and thank you so much for watching.